you noticed something off lately? Take a scroll through your social media feed. Where are all the pictures of Starbucks cups? That iconic green mermaid, once the undisputed symbol of the sophisticated urban professional life, the unofficial logo of I've made it, seems to have lost her siren song. You think it's just you? That you're imagining things? Oh no, my friend. Your instincts are razor sharp. Because just as we're all feeling the squeeze, feeling the pressure of life getting heavier, it turns out that Starbucks, the very company that sold us the dream of a third place, is finding it can't pay the rent on that dream anymore. In fact, it's going through a brutal, soul-searching midlife crisis. Just a little while ago, on September 25th, Starbucks dropped a bombshell. They announced a massive restructuring. Now, that's a fancy corporate word, isn't it? Let me translate it into plain English for you. They're shutting stores and firing people, a lot of them. With one swing of the axe, hundreds of locations across North America and Europe are gone. And to go with it, they're graduating about 900 office employees, sending them off to explore the vast opportunities of the current job market. The moment the news hit the capital markets, which are more honest than anyone, reacted instantly. The stock price took a little nosedive. It wasn't a crash, just a 1% dip. But that dip is an attitude. It's the icy cold attitude of Wall Street voting with its feet. Now, you might think Starbucks is a giant, closing a few stores, laying off a few people. That's not even a flesh wound. But as they say, the devil is in the details. For this so-called optimization, Starbucks itself has to cough up $1 billion. You heard me, $1 billion with a B. And they've got it all budgeted out. $150 million is for severance packages, the breakup fee for their employees. The other $850 million, that's to clean up the mess from the closed stores. Things like penalties for breaking leases, selling off equipment at a loss, liquidating inventory, all the boring, expensive bits and pieces. You see, opening a store is an investment, but closing one, that's a massive cost too. It's like buying an expensive gym membership, realizing you never go, and then trying to cancel it. The cancellation fees and depreciation will make you question your life choices. The main call is happening in North America. By the end of this fiscal year, the number of stores there is set to drop from 18,743 to 18,300. I did the math for you. Poof! 443 stores vanish. To put that in perspective, if you spread them across 10 states, that's dozens gone from each. If you line them all up in New York City, the line of closed Starbucks would stretch from Times Square all the way to Central Park. Europe isn't escaping the axe either. Stores in the UK, Austria, and Switzerland are also saying their goodbyes. They're being coy with the exact numbers, probably to avoid hurting feelings. But you can bet the mood there isn't exactly cheerful. And the layoffs? Brutal. Over 900 non-frontline employees, the people you don't see making your latte, had to pack their desks and leave that very day. And this wasn't even the first round. Back in February, they already showed 1,100 global employees the door. That's 2,000 jobs gone in less than a year. The whole operation screams of a swift, precise, and cold-hearted efficiency. A perfect example of capitalism shedding no tears. So, the billion-dollar question is, what happened? How did Starbucks, the coffee patriarch that taught a generation of us the difference between a tall, a grande, and a venti, suddenly get sick and start amputating its own limbs to survive? The answer is painfully simple. They can't sell as much coffee anymore. Or rather, people's wallets have gotten a lot tighter. North America has always been Starbucks' crown jewel, the biggest slice of its global pie. But now, even that juicy steak is starting to taste stale. The financial reports don't lie. North American sales have declined year over year for 6 consecutive quarters. That's a year and a half of going backwards. In the most recent quarter, sales dropped another 2%. Now, 2% might not sound like much, but for a behemoth with tens of billions in revenue, every percentage point is hundreds of millions of real money. This isn't just sluggish growth, this is a full-blown retreat. It's like the straight-A student who, for the first time, not only didn't get a better grade, but actually did worse. Suddenly, everyone starts to worry. So why can't they sell? The official company line is a masterpiece of corporate speak. Increased competition and consumers' growing price sensitivity. It's a statement that is both honest and a masterful way to shift blame. Let's dissect that. First, increased competition. Sure, that's true, but saying it like that makes them sound like an innocent bystander. The coffee market today is not the solo stage it was 20 years ago. Today, Starbucks is like a middle-aged man caught in a squeeze play, as awkward as the filling in a sandwich.
Looking upmarket, you have an explosion of independent specialty coffee shops. These places talk about single origin beans, about sun-dried versus honey processing methods, about the art of the pour-over, about the conversation between you and the barista. They're not just selling coffee, they're selling connoisseurship and attitude. Young people will walk 2 extra blocks just to check in at one of these places. To this crowd, Starbucks' standardized assembly line product is barely a step up from instant coffee. It's just a brand name. Starbucks wants to be high-end, but the path is blocked by people who are far more authentic and knowledgeable. Then, looking down market, you have the siege of budget coffee. Never underestimate McDonald's McCafe. It's cheap, it's convenient, and you can get it at a drive-thru. Convenience stores are slinging Americanos for a couple of bucks, less than half the price of Starbucks. In our increasingly fast-paced world, why do most people drink coffee? For the caffeine. It's fuel. It keeps you going so you can continue to toil away at the grindstone. Flavor notes? Ambiance? The third place? Sorry, the working class has no time for that nonsense. A cup from a competitor might be $2. At Starbucks, a basic Americano starts at $4. When price is the deciding factor, that brand premium becomes incredibly fragile. And that's not even mentioning the new chains that have copied the Luckin Coffee model of grab and go, pumping out drinks faster than Starbucks and flooding your phone with coupons. So you see the predicament. In the battle for prestige, it gets beaten by the local artisan shop. In the battle for price, it gets crushed by fast food and convenience chains. It's stuck in the middle, and its target audience is becoming blurry. The people chasing quality think it's basic, and the people chasing value think it's a ripoff. And when a brand can no longer clearly define who its core customer is, decline is inevitable. Now for the part that stings even more. Consumers' growing price sensitivity. Let's call it what it is. People are broke, or at least they are unwilling to pay for things that are all sizzle and no steak. There was a time when holding a Starbucks cup, sitting by the window with a MacBook open, was the quintessential image of a young urban professional. You weren't just buying coffee, you were buying an identity, a psychological affirmation that said, I'm working hard and I'm doing okay. That $5 coffee was a check-in, a form of social currency, content for your Instagram feed. It was an affordable luxury that fulfilled an emotional need. But the winds have changed. Global inflation has sent everyone's cost of living skyrocketing. The price of coffee beans has shot up like a rocket. The futures for Arabica beans on the New York Exchange are up over 118% in a year, hitting a 47-year high. As powerful as Starbucks is, it can't absorb those costs. So, it sneakily raises prices. A little here, a little there. But they're getting bolder. Not just raising drink prices, but charging for every little extra. A pump of syrup? That'll be 80 cents. A scoop of matcha powder? $1, please. Consumers aren't stupid. When a cup of coffee creeps from $4 to $6, that adds up to hundreds of dollars over a year. In a tough economy where people compare prices on a head of lettuce, why should they pay the Starbucks brand tax? The $3 Americano from the corner store provides the same caffeine kick. Heck, brewing your own pour-over at home cuts the cost in half again. Faced with the harsh reality of survival, that little bit of so-called bourgeois sentiment and refined lifestyle proves to be utterly fragile. The term consumption downgrade isn't about not spending, it's about spending becoming more rational, more pragmatic. We're all calculating the cost-benefit now. We're asking, is this truly worth the money? Buying Starbucks used to be an emotional decision. Now, buying coffee is a functional one. And when consumers return to basics, seeking only caffeine, Starbucks' high prices become its original sin. Making matters worse, Starbucks has been diluting its own brand value. Its most celebrated concept was the third place, a comfortable, welcoming space outside of home and work for relaxation, socializing, and work. That story was compelling, and it made Starbucks stand out. But now, walk into any Starbucks during a busy period, see the long lines of people waiting for pickups, the delivery drivers rushing in and out, the baristas overwhelmed by a tidal wave of mobile orders. The environment is noisy, chaotic. What space is there to speak of? The rise of mobile payments and delivery platforms, while convenient, has utterly destroyed the third place experience. Most people just grab and go. Starbucks is becoming more and more just a fast food pickup counter. With its own hands, it has torn off its old label of slow down and enjoy life and replaced it with the sign of just another beverage joint. And when the experience vanishes, leaving only the product, customers naturally start comparing it to other, cheaper beverage joints. And in that comparison, its weaknesses are laid bare. So this massive wave of closures and layoffs isn't so much a crisis as it is a necessary, painful cleansing. Starbucks is paying the price for a decade of frenzied expansion and a blurred brand identity. In the world of capital, growth is the only religion. And for years, the simplest path to growth was to open more stores. Open, open, open. Plant the Green Mermaid logo on every corner of the globe and crush the competition with sheer scale. But that model has a fatal flaw: diminishing returns. Starbucks was so obsessed with expansion that it reached a point of oversaturation, where its own stores were stealing each other's business. Some were opened in obscure corners, serving only a handful of customers a day while paying outrageous rent. Even the CEO admitted that many of these stores either failed to meet brand standards or had no hope of ever turning a profit.
Closing them is simply stopping the bleeding. Now, finally, Starbucks seems to get it, or rather, reality has forced them to. Instead of maintaining a facade of prosperity, it's better to shrink the front line, cut the dead weight, and focus resources on the stores that actually work. The CEO has launched a reinvention plan. The core idea: stop the crazy experiments and put money where it counts. On one hand, it's subtraction. Cut redundant back office staff, close unprofitable stores. On the other hand, it's addition. They've pledged $500 million to improve stores, increase staff hours, and raise pay. They plan to renovate 1,000 older locations to bring back that cozy third place feeling. Early data suggests these renovated stores are working. Customers visit more often and stay longer. But can this last-ditch effort truly reverse the decline? Wall Street is still watching, unconvinced. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. While the North American homeland is gloomy, the story in China is completely different. In the third quarter, Starbucks China saw its revenue grow by 8%, its third consecutive quarter of growth. Same-store sales are up, and they are still opening stores at a frantic pace.
over 300 new ones in the last quarter alone, pushing into smaller cities. They're even innovating with local products and collaborations. But amidst this booming success, an even more surreal piece of news emerged. The parent company is actively considering selling a majority stake in its China business. Private equity giants like Carlyle are in the final running. The deal could be sealed soon, leaving Starbucks with only a minority stake. The CEO, of course, spins it beautifully. He says they're looking for a partner with a shared vision and local expertise to make the brand even stronger in China. Do you believe that? I don't, not entirely. Capital at its core is about profit. A more likely story is the parent company sees the problems in North America as a bottomless pit that requires a massive infusion of cash to fix. Selling off a piece of the golden goose in China is a way to raise that cash, to staunch the bleeding back home. At the same time, it lets them leverage the power of a local partner to continue fighting in China's brutally cutthroat market. It's a win-win from a certain point of view. This kind of contradictory move is a masterclass in the cold, cruel calculus of global capital. But for those 2,000 laid-off employees, this strategic transformation is a personal catastrophe. That $150 million in severance sounds like a lot, but divided up, it's just a few months of salary. They are the direct cost, the human sacrifice of this grand corporate realignment. When the numbers on a financial report need to look better, when the stock price needs a boost, employee salaries become costs, the first things to be optimized. That is the brutal law of the business world. Behind the warm, fuzzy veil of corporate culture is always the ice-cold calculation of cost versus benefit. Starbucks built its reputation in America by calling its employees partners and cultivating an image of a company that cared. But now, as they chant partner with one breath and fire thousands with the next, that image is shattering. Your company will not pay your mortgage or your children's tuition. It will only serve the profits of its shareholders. Ultimately, this Starbucks earthquake isn't just about one brand. It's a snapshot of our era. No brand can rest on its laurels forever. Consumer tastes change, the market changes, the competition changes. The moat that protected your castle yesterday can be filled in overnight by new technology, new business models, and new values. The so-called brand halo is incredibly fragile in an economic downturn. The era of consumption driven by symbols and concepts may truly be coming to an end. People are focusing more on the actual function and value of a product, not the ethereal meaning it's supposed to carry. A cup of coffee, in the end, must be judged on whether it tastes good and is worth the price. A space, in the end, must be judged on whether it provides real comfort and convenience. All the glamorous marketing stories can be knocked out cold by a single punch from reality. For us, the spectators, the biggest lesson here is perhaps to have a clearer understanding of our own consumption and our own lives. Don't be held hostage by the illusions created by brands. Don't use what you buy to define who you are. Whether you drink a $2 coffee or a $6 one does not determine your worth as a person. What truly determines the quality of your life is the balance in your bank account, your ability to weather storms, and the peace and resilience within your own mind. That green mermaid was once a totem of globalization and consumerism. Her expansion accompanied the dreams of a generation. Today, her retreat is a mirror, reflecting the profound changes our world is undergoing. When the storm hits, even a mermaid will feel the chill. And it's only when the tide goes out that you discover who's been swimming naked. Perhaps this is the truest face of life. We are all undergoing a process of disenchantment with brands and with entire ways of living. And being clear-eyed is always the first step towards facing the future. A giant's blade cuts through the frost. The autumn leaves on shuttered doors are lost. For 6 straight quarters, sales in cold decline. A tumbling share price, a worrying sign.
Rivals surround, the market's a melee, while wary buyers count each penny. The bean price soars, the costs begin to bite. They cut their losses, seeking a new light. A faded halo, a glory of the past. The road to reinvention is long and vast. That's all for today's episode. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.